Hey everybody, this is Chris with Glass House Realty Group and the Endres Group. I'm back here again with Ben Rife from Cornerstone First Mortgage.
Tongue twister.
Yeah, did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I hope so.
It's funny because I don't ever really know. I suck at remembering like who people work with. Like I always tell people, I use people because I trust them and they're good at what their job, which is why I use Ben. I've said that in videos in the past. Try to take nothing from people. I just use them because they're good and trustworthy people. And with that, today, right now, we're going to talk real quick about the importance of using a local lender. And I'll start off with my own personal experience.
Yeah.
Beforehand, I've worked with a lot of the big banks. I'm not going to call them out because I don't want anybody to sue me or give me a cease and desist on my videos or anything. But just generally speaking, any of the giant banking lending systems, I've had some good experiences with them, and I've had some really bad experiences with them. And I think the big thing for me is I never know. It's not necessarily just like with any real estate agency. There's going to be good and bad agents in that group. So it's not necessarily the company that does help a lot, but it's always usually comes down to the individual.
Yeah.
And when I'm working with a big bank, unless I specifically go to that lender, and even if I go to that lender, they may have a different processor that time. And that processor, there's people who are in the background doing all that work. You never know who you're going to get, really. You know. And I've found, from an educational standpoint, my big thing when I'm working with a lender is I stay in my lane. I'm out looking for the houses, making sure people are finding a good house, making a good investment. You're the money guy. So I don't want to be talking on your behalf. And when I send someone to a lender, it's my expectation that that lender is, giving them a full course on the lending process. And I feel like that's something that's really missed in the big bank thing as well. And it's just especially with, let's just say military, for example. I feel like they go out to any of the big military lending affiliated, with military folks. It's always, what's your time and grade, what's your time and service, dependents, no dependents, here's your pre-approval letter.
Yeah.
Where with you, they get a much more fine-tuned education, I guess, on the whole lending process and talking about all the different programs which we discussed. But with that said, that's kind of my big thing. And I guess the other number one big thing for me is, like I tell people, if we have a problem with the loan or the contract or the deal, whatever, and it's Sunday at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, and we need something rectified right then or talk to someone, I'm not getting anybody at a big bank.
Nope.
Ever. And I know I can always call you on a Sunday,
anytime,
day and night, whether you've been out bowling and had a few or not.
On the golf course. I've taken phone calls from the golf course, and it'd be like, you put an offer in, and it's the listing agent reaching out to me on a Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, and I'm like, let's do it. Hold on.
Yeah. May get a little variety of Ben, but it's the same good information. It always gets it done, and you're always available to me and to my clients, which is one of the main reasons I use you. One of the reasons I love you. Been using you for 6+ years. But that's kind of my perspective and why I love working with local lenders. And I'll say some more to that too, but before I do that and take the whole thing, I'll let you run it from your perspective, why you're better than a non-local.
Just the biggest thing that I always hear from the clients that have reached out to those banks or other lending institutions that are government backed or whatever, is communication, customer service. Again, it all goes back to that, right? So communication, customer service, availability.
Right.
A lot of times, if we do a lot of transactions with VA clients, they don't get out of the base until 5 o'clock, right? Their phones are secured. They can't answer phone calls. They can't communicate until after 5 o'clock. Well, most banking institutions are closed by 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then on the weekends, they're only open for a short time on a Saturday. So, if we need something immediately, we can take care of that. And they can get a hold of me anytime. That's something that I've instilled on my team that's local as well.
Yeah.
So not just I'm local, born and raised, lived here my whole life, whatever. it's my team is also here too as well, meaning that they're in house. My processor is at my office. If I have an issue, I can walk around the corner. We can address it immediately. My processors, we have a team of processors. I have 3 of them on my team. I have 2 assistants. My assistants are in house. If we need to address something immediately, we can go to them and talk to them right then and there. Underwriters are in house. We don't have to send it to underwriting that's located in a different state or on a different time zone or anything like that. The closers, even the closer that talks with the title company, they're in house. So when you say a local lender, everything's local. Everything is here.
I feel like we've been in specific situations with our clients where we ran into issues, and because you have those in-house underwriters, for example, who play such a huge role in that, and that kind of personal relationship with them, and then our relationship, that you guys are able to kind of work through things much more efficiently and maybe get by with things that we wouldn't normally get by with some big bank lender that we don't have any relationship with.
Yeah, they're all gonna follow the guidelines per Fannie and Freddie, whoever backs the loans.
Yeah.
But those banks are gonna have overlays.
Right.
So, they're gonna have other overlays that they have to get around for underwriting, where we're not gonna have that.
Right.
We're just gonna follow it straight from the book. And if there is something that comes up, we're gonna evaluate it and see if it makes sense for the client. If I got somebody that's putting down more than 20%, their credit score is phenomenal, and it's something very minimal that they're trying to maybe argue or push back on us, we can just go up to the national head of underwriting easily. I can just email her, talk to her, call her, whatever. She'll get it taken care of.
Yeah, I probably should clarify. I wasn't insinuating that you do anything illegal.
No, it would never
It's just that because you guys have we have that close network. It just the process of that and getting the approval through the underwriters, is just a much more efficient process, I guess.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why, to be honest with you, is why I work for Cornerstone First Mortgage. We feel like it's a family.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
family
I feel that a lot
run.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody works as a team, and it's just great. So.
Yeah, and I'll say, I guess, add one more thing to my experience with the local lender, and not necessarily even the local lender, but the local market in general, is I always tell my buyers, when I'm telling them the importance of using a local lender, I tell them that when I'm working with a seller and I get, say, 5 offers on a house, and all of those offers are, as far as price range wise, very similar to one another. They're all asking the same concessions or lack of concessions and same purchase price. I've had it happen to me where I have 3 to 5 offers sitting in front of me. They all look pretty much the same, but I've got this guy that's using a local lender, and I've got this guy that's using X, Y, and Z big bank. I just know sometimes the nightmare that can happen. You don't know that lender. You don't know that bank. You just know they're one of those giant conglomerates. And I think I've had situations where we've went to maybe even the local lender was a little bit less. They're offering a little bit less, by a couple grand or something.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, hey, look, you guys are pretty on par with each other. But we like that you guys are using a local lender. So if you come up and match this price of this big bank person, we'll kind of go with you guys just because we'd much rather work with the local lender, because I know as a real estate agent that the transaction is going to go a lot smoother when we're working with a local person. So Dayton, I feel like general Dayton area as a whole is usually a seller's market. It can be pretty competitive, especially this time. We're in spring right now, which is always super competitive. Everything matters, and the pre-approval letter, if you're buying a $250,000 house and you're pre-approved for $500,000, yeah, that's nice. Says you're a good, strong buyer, but the fact that it's from a local lender and not a big bank, that's huge for me as far as knowing that the process is probably going to go a lot smoother.
How many times have we worked together where you had the buyer, and you put an offer in, and like I said, I get a call from the listing agent just to verify, how qualified. We obviously can't give them certain information. We can't tell them what their
Right.
credit score is or whatever, but we can assure that this is going to be a smooth process.
Yeah.
This is going to be, they're very well qualified. And I mean, oftentimes that person ends up getting the house, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Makes a big difference.
yeah, I think being available to answer the questions for the listing agents, and even as you being a buyer's agent and you have the buyer and you want me to reach out to the listing agent, I would do that for anybody, and
Yeah.
we'll do that, and that's helped win deals for the clients too as well.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many closings you've shown up at. You're not getting the big banks to do that stuff either. So just that nice personal touch makes such a big difference. And then also, I guess the bad experience I had with a big bank, they I won't say again who the lender was, but it was one of the big giant banks. I had two young kids. I think they were like 19 years old. Both were in the fast food industry, out of state, moved to the Dayton area, and they show up to me with a pre-approval letter from a big bank without jobs. They had no jobs, but based off of what they used to do, had a pre-approval letter for $350,000 and wanted to go shopping for $350,000. I said, guys, this is insane. And when I reached out to that lender, I'm like, how can you do this to these kids and give them a pre-approval letter for $350,000? They don't even have jobs, And he said, well, it's obviously based on them, proving their
What their
employment.
current-
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm like, but they don't have jobs. They're in the fast food industry. How are they going to make afford a $350,000 homes? And they're just setting someone up for failure. I mean, to go lose probably very little money they have saved up, go spending that on appraisals and down
Earnest
payments
money.
and stuff, just to get into that and be like, oh yeah, hey, we looked at your stuff and you're not really pre-approved. I've seen that situation, and I know when they go to you, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, a lot of times too, is a client will call in a number, right? They're calling in a phone number for that big banking institution, and they're not talking with somebody local.
right,
They're talking to somebody that just answered the phone, and all their job is just to get them approved.
right,
Get them approved, send the pre-approval out. They're not doing the deep dive, asking them the questions. Hey, when are you moving? Where are you moving to? Do you have a job lined up yet?
yeah,
Because obviously you work hourly here. You're not working remotely. You can't use that for qualifying when you don't have a job already lined up.
yeah. And there's so many things that I think need to be discussed in that initial loan consultation appointment. I mean, we've had that conversation so many times. Maybe you can afford a $700,000 house, but based off of the budget you want to be in,
Right.
probably not the price points you want to be looking at.
Yeah.
And you can help them kind of fine tune their budgets and kind of more. I guess it's all about expectation setting, and I feel like a local lender has way more care and ability to apply that to that process versus a big bank.
Yeah. I mean,
And then you also know what the local competition is. You see what offers get accepted, what offers don't. So
Yeah.
you can maybe back me up on, giving recommendations based off of what you see. You see more approved loans come through than I do. So
Yeah.
you know what's really working out there and what's not as much. So that's all really important as well. Or, I mean, how many situations have we been in with our military folks where they're getting ready to retire and moving here to Wright Pat, but going to be contracting, and they call a big bank and they don't factor that stuff in at all. They just, this is what you're currently making. You
Yeah.
need to go. And you're like, that's not that easy. And I've seen that happen where they go with the big bank, and then when they get under contract, it goes back to them for I don't know what after it gets accepted, and they go, oh, actually, this is a problem.
Yeah, that job offer is not really concrete, right?
Yeah.
So it's just taking that extra time to talk with the client, see what they feel comfortable with paying, right? So yeah, somebody can afford a $500,000 house, but do they want to pay a payment, of $4,000 or $5,000 a month payment? The last thing I want to do is make somebody house broke,
Right.
to where they don't enjoy their life, they don't go out, they don't, be active, things like that. So that's definitely a conversation that I have with every client is, what do you feel comfortable with paying?
Yeah.
And then they'll tell me a payment, and then we'll educate them with, hey, that's including taxes, insurance, everything, right? And they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
I can't tell you how many times I get the initial buyer consult, and they tell me this is our price range, and they basically be running those numbers off of some online calculator.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then I send them over to you to have that conversation and dig into those details a little bit more, and they come back and go, well, maybe we're not. We need to lower our price range a little bit, based off of their online calculator, and the real local expert and what that house is actually going to cost them tends to be different a lot of times.
People go online and they see, this payment breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
It's not real information for them. They're not diving into, okay, what does that payment breakdown consist of? And a lot of times you'll see it where they'll have the payment breakdown, and that includes 20% down, and a certain credit score, things like that. But it all changes for each client, and that's why, it's so important to work with somebody local, because what you're going to do is I'm going to go the extra mile and go and look for the county auditor website, break down the taxes correctly, make sure that we give the client the best, most accurate payment breakdown. So
yeah, I think that's another big thing that happens with people. That's when I always tell my client, I tell them to call you.
Yeah,
and this is for every buyer out there. I think it's so important. Before you talk to Ben or you talk to any lender, I say pick out 2 houses. If you think your budget is $400,000 or $250,000, whatever you feel like the top price point you have is, pick out that house. Pick out 2 of those houses that are you think is the top of your budget, and send those to your lender and say, what is my monthly payment on this house to include estimated taxes and insurance. And then also, what is my cash to close on this house? I feel like a lot of people call and say, what is my closing cost? And then a lender sometimes will just give them the
title fees.
Title fees and lender fees, but not talking about your escrow. So you need to know, what is my total out-of-pocket cost going to be, cash to close, when you sit down at the table. So I tell all my clients, when you call Ben, pick out 2 houses at the very top of your budget. Not because we want to spend all your money, but it's just good to know if I'm qualified, or if I want to spend $250,000, I know no matter what, I can afford the most expensive house after talking to Ben. And then when I'm out shopping with my realtor, if I find a $220,000 house, I know I'm good to go without Ben, without having to go back out to Ben, and we can act quickly on that. Yeah. So I think that's a really important conversation to have, and one I don't think you get with a big bank.
No, I always frame it total cash to close. What you're coming to the table, and that's all going to depend on too how it's structured on the contract, right?
Yeah.
Short-term tax expiration, long-term tax expiration.
Right.
So earnest money getting credited back, seller's concession. So total cash to close for the whole transaction.
Yeah, it's talking about taxes too. I don't know. Is that something that you think a lot of the big banks have, like the knowledge of which county here is long tax versus short tax?
No.
That's a whole different video. We could get in on that. But it's just telling you, obviously, the difference between local and big lender again.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for tuning in on this one again. Chris Endres with the Glass House Realty Group and the Endres Group. Hit us up, give us a like, give us a follow. And then, obviously, if you need a good lender, Ben Rife, Cornerstone First Mortgage. Ben, what's your email number?
Email is brife, RIFE, at cfmtg.com. Phone number 937-212-1957.
And you can also just reply to this video if you want. If you need more information or you want us to put you in touch with Ben, just hit us up and we'd be glad to do that. Love you guys.
Thanks.